Tonight, the protests and clashes in Minneapolis after that ICE-involved shooting as tensions rise there and across the country. And breaking right now in Portland, Oregon, 2 people hospitalized after a shooting involving federal agents. In Minneapolis, new clashes with law enforcement after the killing of a woman inside her car. But we're learning from new videos about who that woman was. Plus, the new details on the ICE officer and video of a prior incident where he was dragged by a car as politicians on both sides dig in. The medical scare in space. NASA announcing they're rushing to bring the crew home from the space station as an astronaut deals with a medical issue. We speak with a former NASA astronaut about what that mission back to Earth could look like. Massive protests erupting in Iran. A car ramming into security forces. A bank set on fire. Demonstrators hit with water cannons as the nation plunges into an internet blackout. Is the country at a tipping point? Back here at home, tornadoes ripping through the South. Roofs ripped apart, semi-trucks flipped over. Bill Cairns will tell you when the threat is really ramping up. And a famous base jumper's daring stunt taking a deadly turn. How his family in the extreme sports community is remembering him tonight. Dramatic video as a man steals a bulldozer, attempting to mow down police officers, even crushing a cruiser. How it all came to an end. And history made in Antarctica. The explorer on a solo mission speaking with our Chloe Malas about the incredible feat he just pulled off. Plus, signs of hope in Venezuela where officials are now releasing political prisoners. What it signals for the future of that country. Top story starts right now. And good evening, I'm Morgan Chesky in for Tom, and we come on the air with breaking news tonight out of Portland, Oregon. Reports of yet another shooting involving federal agents. All of this as outrage and division erupts in Minneapolis after a woman was killed by an ICE officer yesterday. Now, this is the chaotic scene in Minnesota today. Protesters clashing with police who shot tear gas back at them. Demonstrators angered by the shooting taking to the streets all across the country, from California to Colorado and tonight, New York. Their outrage sparked by this moment, when ICE officers approach a woman blocking the road with her car, then attempt to open her door before she drives away. That's when one of the officers opened fire, shooting and killing her. That woman, now identified as 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, a mother and an American citizen. We're also learning more about the ICE officer who pulled the trigger. He was injured in a previous arrest attempt. And this is video showing the suspect speeding off, dragging that very officer on the other side. The response from political leaders could not be more divided. President Trump calling the shooting justified. Vice President Vance labeling Good's death, quote, a tragedy of her own making. Democratic leaders pushing back tonight. Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz calling for ICE to leave his state, saying he fears the federal investigation into her death will not be fair. And as we learned tonight that state officials will not be a part of that investigation, only the FBI. All of this fueling frustration and anger in Minneapolis tonight, a city left tense, trying to figure out what comes next. Maggie Vespa is there, but we want to start with our own Dana Griffin, who has that late-breaking news out of Oregon tonight. I know a lot of information just now coming in. Dana, what have you learned?
So we have learned that there's been a shooting involving 2 people in the Customs and Border Patrol. So this information coming from the FBI in Portland. They say the shooting happened around 2:15 this afternoon in the 1000 block of Main Street in Portland, again, involving Customs and Border Patrol agents, in which 2 people were wounded. We're also getting some more information from police who claim that a man had called police asking for help after being shot. They responded, found a man and a woman with apparent gunshot wounds. Officers there applied a tourniquet. Both went to the hospital. Their conditions are unknown at this time, and we're getting a statement from the chief there, from the police chief, Bob Day. He says we are still in the early stages of this incident. He goes on to say we understand the heightened emotion and tension many are feeling in the wake of the shooting in Minneapolis, but I am asking the community to remain calm as we work to learn more. And we're obviously trying to find as much information as we can, Morgan.
Yeah, fluid situation there. Dana, thanks so much. Want to turn now to the clashes intensifying in Minneapolis just hours after that deadly ICE-involved shooting there. Our Maggie Vespa on the ground tonight with the very latest.
Tonight in Minneapolis, new clashes between protesters and police after a driver's deadly encounter with ICE. City officials canceling school.
There's anger and there's fear, and people are on edge.
When I saw the video, I saw one and he was very scared.
And there's new focus on those videos of the incident. Police say the driver, 37-year-old U.S. citizen Renee Nicole Good, was blocking ICE officers from using the road. You can see officers walk up to her SUV, ordering her to get out. One officer grabs the door handle, but instead Good reverses, then accelerates as an officer stands in front of her car. He opens fire. And here, that other angle, the ICE officer standing in front of Good's vehicle when she accelerates forward and he fires. The divide over what the videos show only deepening. Democrats condemning the ICE officer.
State-sanctioned execution that we all saw.
And that has tragically led to this murder that we all watched on TV.
While Vice President Vance tonight strongly defending him.
You have a woman who aimed her car at a law enforcement officer and pressed on the accelerator. Nobody debates that. I can believe that her death is a tragedy, while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe, against our law enforcement officers.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says the officer made the right decision as a car moved towards him.
This officer took action to protect himself.
We asked the Minneapolis police chief if he agrees.
Yep.
When you see him stepping in front of the vehicle, how does that strike you?
Well, we train to avoid that whenever possible. However, the way things unfold on the street, nothing's ever 100%.
And tonight, we're learning new details about the ICE officer. DHS telling us he was injured by a suspect's car just 6 months ago when, at a traffic stop, he tried to arrest an undocumented convicted sex offender who slammed on the gas while the officer's arm was still in the vehicle. This video showing the officer being dragged for 100 yards down the street. The officer seriously injured, court documents identifying him as Jonathan Ross. NBC News reached out to DHS requesting comment from Ross. And there's also new focus on this moment when a person who says he's a doctor offers to help at the scene.
Can I go check a pulse?
No! Back up! Now!
I'm a physician!
I don't care.
An ICE agent said, "I do not care." That lack of humanity was chilling to me.
Tonight, Minnesota's governor calling on ICE to stop enforcing immigration laws here.
Leave Minnesota alone. None of this is accomplishing either his mission or making us any safer. So just give us a pause. Let us breathe. This relentless assault on Minnesota, for whatever reason, is just cruel now. It has reached cruelness.
As these crowds remember Renee Nicole Good, a mother of 3.
And Maggie Vespa joins us once again from the scene of that shooting in Minneapolis. Maggie, we see the crowds and that memorial behind you, and we know there's a growing divide tonight over who should handle this investigation.
Yeah, Morgan, that's right. In the midst of everything that you just saw in that piece tonight, the head of Minnesota's Bureau of Criminal Apprehension accusing the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI, so the Trump administration, of initially promising a joint investigation and then cutting off the state's access to evidence. Now, today, Secretary Kristi Noem saying that the state of Minnesota, in her words, isn't being frozen out and just doesn't have jurisdiction in this case. Governor Walz blasting this move, saying getting a fair outcome in this investigation will be, quote, very, very difficult. Morgan.
All right, much more to come. Maggie Vespa, thanks so much. And I do want to bring in Chad Wolf now. He is the acting Secretary of Homeland Security during the first Trump administration, currently the Executive Vice President at the America First Policy Institute. Chad, thanks for being here. The response to this incident, the video, it has been so incredibly polarizing. From your experience, from what you've seen and the different angles of these videos, was the officer who shot into this vehicle following standard protocol?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. Look, let me first say that I prefer to let the investigation play out. I've seen the video a couple of different angles, as much like you and other Americans have seen that. You know, law enforcement is trained to make sure that they do a variety of different things when they approach a scene like they did. But I think at the end of the day, if that law enforcement officer believes that he is in danger from a variety of different circumstances, then they are authorized to use the appropriate amount of force to make sure that they are no longer in danger. And so as the investigation unfolds, we're going to understand more about what was the conversation that the officers and the direction that the officers gave the woman behind the wheel of the car, what, if anything, she said to them in return. and a bunch of other eyewitness testimony. So it's really important that we let that play out. But, you know, by the limited amount of video that I saw, that officer was in danger.
Understood. Do you believe that there needs to be a discussion around potential changes to ICE protocol, again, from the videos you've seen? And again, I know it's still early here.
No, at this point, I don't. You know, I think it's a weird environment that we are in, where it's okay to block law enforcement. It's okay to put your car in the middle of a street, to not respond to their law enforcement direction, to somehow abscond or get away from law enforcement. All of that is occurring in real time, and it's occurring not just in Minneapolis, but I think you showed the other video where the other officer was dragged for 100 yards or more. This should not be the environment that ICE finds itself in. We don't see this a lot with other law enforcement agencies because of the rhetoric that we hear here. So my first conclusion is not to say that ICE protocols are wrong. It's to say let's actually protect ICE and let's treat them like any other law enforcement agency around the country.
Understood. You say that it appears we live in a time where it's not normal for people to block ICE agents or law enforcement, and yet this woman, you know, killed, if she was blocking ICE agents, the use of deadly force in that situation. Do you stand by that?
Again, as I indicated, it's really important to let the investigation play out, but it's not just blocking the street there. Again, they gave her verbal commands. Curious what those were, curious what her response was. But what it's clear was she reversed her vehicle and then drove forward into another law enforcement officer that then took that action. So it wasn't just blocking the street. It's doing a variety of things, and in no circumstance are any of those acceptable. If you have a problem with ICE, trying to battle it out on the streets with them or any other law enforcement agency is not the right way to do that. You do that in a court of law, you do that elsewhere. But that moment in time, she should have said or should have listened to ICE, give the commands, probably asking her either to remove the car or to get out of the car to understand what was going on there. Because look, ICE, they've got other things. What else is in the car? Who else is in the car? Are there bombs? Are there other things going on there that they are unaware of? They're thinking about all of these things when they see a potential threat in front of them.
Mr. Wolf, we, of course, are seeing frustration, anger with ICE ripple all across the country now, really for months. How does the administration, DHS, the officers of ICE move forward from this? Where do you think the conversation really goes from here?
Yeah, look, ICE has a mission, and that mission is given to them by the United States Congress. They have passed laws that tell them that they need to remove individuals from the country that don't have a legal right to be in the United States. And so that's what they're doing. Their mission's not going to stop. I know that, you know, this administration is not going to somehow pull back because otherwise we're ignoring the law, right? Let's do the right thing. Let's support our law enforcement. Let's do this in a responsible way. Again, in Minneapolis, ICE prefers to go into a jail setting in Minneapolis and detain and arrest criminal illegal aliens that they have in their jails. Mayor Fry and others won't let them do that. Instead, they release them back out onto the streets. And so ICE has to go into the streets and find these folks. Over 1,000 criminal illegal aliens, including pedophiles and rapists and murderers, have been picked up during the course of this operation. Those are the folks that ICE is trying to remove and trying to protect other Americans from.
Chad Wolf, we appreciate you for your time tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And for more analysis on what's been a highly polarizing couple of days now, I do want to bring in NBC's Kelly O'Donnell. Kelly, you were there inside the White House briefing room today. Vice President Vance addressed the media. This incident has become the dominating storyline out of the White House all across the political spectrum, sounds like.
Morgan, what was so striking is this was the first time the vice president had come into the briefing room for a solo press conference, and he was there to talk about a plan to investigate fraud across the country. But it quickly turned into an opportunity for the vice president to become the face of the administration on this issue. And the kinds of conversations people are having at home, in their workplace, on the street, and in the public space certainly bubbled up to make the events in Minnesota, questions about the death of Renee Good the actions of the ICE officer and all the surrounding circumstances have really been thrust into the national spotlight. What was also striking is that the vice president spoke with such certainty. He pressed again and again that he believes he knows what happened and who's responsible, believing that the actions of the woman behind the wheel were, in his words, a terror attack. It was deliberate, trying to run over the officer. That's the characterization from the vice president. He did allow for the fact that she might have panicked or there might be more to it. But the key thing there is, by talking about with such certainty what he believes the factors were, including linking her to brainwashing from the left. We don't have any supporting data on that yet. The investigation has barely begun. And is that hardening views? We're certainly seeing it on the Democratic side, too, where you've got news conferences from Democratic elected officials in Minnesota who are raising some of the other questions, concern about a rush to judgment, concern about the actions of the ICE agent, many of them saying he went too far. So there is an effort politically to shape how the public is seeing these events, and not much willingness to wait for the investigation to unfold. Morgan?
And the vice president also calling it a tragedy of her own making. Kelly O'Donnell, we appreciate your time. Tonight, for the first time ever, NASA says that it will end a mission early and bring a crew home from the International Space Station, citing concerns about one of the astronauts on board who has developed a medical issue. NBC's Tom Llamas explains.
It's happening 250 miles above the Earth. For the first time ever, NASA is ending a mission early to medically evacuate an astronaut, bringing the four-person crew 11 home early because of a medical situation involving one of them.
It's in the best interest of our astronauts to return crew 11 ahead of their planned departure.
The crew expected back on Earth in the coming days. Because of medical privacy rules, NASA won't identify the astronaut or the medical concern, but describes the astronaut as stable. A spacewalk scheduled for today canceled. Yesterday, a Japanese astronaut, Kamiya Yui, called for a medical consult.
Do we have like a crew surgeon? Yes, we'll get that in work. A flight surgeon?
The Crew 11 astronauts launched last August, set to return in February. Commander Zena Cardman, Station Commander Michael Fink, Japanese astronaut Kamiya Yui, and Russian Oleg Platonov. We talked to them before their 6-month assignment.
We're actually hoping to stay longer, but we'll see what NASA comes up with.
We want to work together as a team rather than 4 individuals.
Every astronaut candidate goes through extensive physical and psychological screening, laboratory and diagnostic tests, everything from breast and prostate exams to neck, heart, and lungs.
Because the astronaut is absolutely stable, this is not an emergent evacuation.
NASA says there is a lingering risk to leaving the astronaut on the station. So now the plan, to bring them back on the ground for necessary treatment. Morgan?
All right, Tom, big thank you there. And I want to bring in Jose Hernandez, a former NASA astronaut who worked as a flight engineer on a mission to the International Space Station back in 2009 and is now one of the Board of Regents for the University of California. Jose, thanks for joining us tonight. If you can, help us understand here. Hey, even though the astronaut is in stable condition at the moment, NASA is still moving forward with this medical evaluation. Walk me through a decision like that.
Sure. Well, first of all, it's not a what I would call a time-sensitive emergency like a cardiovascular event where you got to get the individual down so you can stabilize it. But it could be an emergency such as kidney stones, gallbladder, tooth infection, things that are very uncomfortable, but really need to get attention down here on the ground. Now, we're trained in being able to treat ourselves, self-care, self-management, and treat our crewmates because we train for about a week in the hospital and follow a doctor, but we are not doctors, so we can't solve every medical problem up there.
Understood. From a staffing standpoint here, Jose, why send back the entire Crew 11?
Well, I think it's more of a logistical. You have a vehicle that you're going to bring down, and you don't want to just bring down one individual. If that individual is uncomfortable, you at least have to bring another person. And then that's when you say, well, you might as well bring the whole crew, 11 down, and wait till you send a new crew up there.
So kind of like a space carpooling. Totally understand you on that front. As we mentioned, you have been to the International Space Station before. When you're in that confined to space, what exactly is standard protocol for real medical emergencies? Are crews trained to handle almost anything? I know you mentioned, nobody's really a doctor, but I'm curious.
Yeah, you basically are able to draw blood, give injections, medicate individuals. But, there's things such that, for example, if you got kidney stones, the protocol is aggressive hydration and also maybe some potassium citrate to increase the pH level and mitigate the formation of calcium or the stones. But there's a point where the pain is so much that you really need to get the individual down. And so that would be one of my guesses as what a possible ailment that would bring down an astronaut or a whole crew down back to Earth. Now, I want to say that we're going to go back to the moon and establish a long duration post. And so it's at that point that we're going to need a real flight surgeon as part of the crew so that they can take care of more complicated ailments even farther away on the surface of the moon. So I always tell the future flight surgeons of the world, there's a space for you in space if you're willing to come and train.
There you go. You heard it here first. Jose Hernandez, really appreciate you sharing your expertise tonight.
Thank you very much.
I do want to turn now to Iran, where protests are escalating across that country, and tonight appear to be posing what could be the most serious challenge to the Islamic Revolutionary Government since 1979. NBC's Richard Engel with that story tonight.
Iranian activists tell NBC News hundreds of thousands of anti-government demonstrators are on the streets in multiple cities, including the capital, Tehran. And they're pushing hard, tearing up Iranian flags, setting fires, and in some cases, confronting the feared security forces. One video appears to show a protester driving into a group of officers. Why now? The economy is collapsing, with inflation and a currency crisis. Look at this market. None of the shops have customers. Why? Because people don't have any money, said this man. Also, Iran was significantly weakened after last summer's 12-day war launched by Israel and the United States, and the destruction of Iran's backers, the Lebanese militia Hezbollah and the former Syrian government of Bashar al-Assad. So far, no main opposition leader in Iran. At least 20 demonstrators reportedly killed in the last 2 weeks. But tonight it's unclear if the protesters have the strength to topple the government, which has crushed challenges before.
Just stunning video in tonight. Richard Engel joins us now. Richard, some of these protesters are calling for the return of the son of the late Shah. Can you explain to our viewers what exactly is going on there?
So there was a monarchy in charge of Iran, led by the Shah, an emperor effect. He was driven out of power in 1979, and the Islamic Revolutionary Government has been in place ever since. And now we're seeing these massive protests, a significant challenge to the Islamic regime. And some of the protesters are calling for the return of the son of the Shah, who's never ruled the country, has been in exile, not necessarily because they're pining away for him or because they want another monarchy. It's because there isn't really a well-known leader in the country. So it's not that he's universally popular, but his name is being thrown around. You do hear his name being shouted in some of these protests, perhaps because he's the most recognizable international figure or recognizable figure, I should say, within Tehran that people can at least try and rally behind. A different face, and they're a little bit nostalgic about the days of the past. Unclear if he has the power to go back, unclear if he could hold this together. It is really a leaderless movement at this stage. But his name is being vocalized in some of these demonstrations. And frankly, I would say that surprised me, and it surprised many people that I've spoken to who have been watching Iran for a long time.
Yeah, incredibly fluid situation there. Appreciate you keeping an eye on it. Richard Engel, thanks so much. We are back in a moment with chaos on a construction site. Video showing a suspect crushing a police cruiser with a bulldozer. We'll explain. Plus, the historic trek across Antarctica. Our Chloe Malas spoke exclusively with an American explorer after he set yet another record. Plus, a major setback for one of Team USA's biggest stars. Champion snowboarder Chloe Kim injured while training. Could it keep it out of the Winter Games? That's ahead on Top Story. We are back with just a wild story out of Nevada. A man accused of not only trying to steal a bulldozer, but also attempting to use it to try to run over a police officer. And the entire incident was caught on camera. Steve Patterson with more on this supersized Grand Theft Auto.
Tonight, police standing off against 20 tons. It started at this construction site in Henderson, Nevada. Sunday morning, an eyewitness spotting a man hopping a fence, and police say hot wiring heavy machinery.
So I have a guy trying to steal a bulldozer. Hey!
Moments later, an officer arrives on scene, but with the bulldozer now barreling toward her squad car. That 911 caller looking on in disbelief.
Oh my God, my morning.
The officer opening fire. But the suspect, identified as 33-year-old Juan Rincon Carreño, keeps going.
And he just destroyed a police car.
As Rincon Carreño crushes the cruiser, another unit arrives on scene, opening fire. Two officers take him down, falling with the suspect some 7 feet before making an arrest. Rincon Carreño was hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries after being shot twice. Now facing multiple charges, including 2 counts of attempted murder. NBC News reached out to local public defenders, but has not heard back yet. The 2 responding officers placed on administrative leave per department policy. And thankfully unscathed from the dangers of heavy machinery on the job.
Unbelievable video there, Steve. Yeah. Joining us now. So glad the officers were not seriously injured in that encounter. Have we learned anything more about the charges the suspect could be facing here?
So you heard there, beyond the 2 counts of attempted murder, grand larceny of a motor vehicle, destroying property of another, and resisting a public officer with a deadly weapon, and then they put in parentheses, not a firearm. He's got an arraignment next week. Police say he's been uncooperative with the investigation, which is part of the reason why they have no semblance of a motive at this point.
No firearm, just a bulldozer.
Just a bulldozer.
Steve Patterson, thanks so much. And we want to turn back to that breaking news we brought you at the top of the broadcast. A shooting involving federal agents at an ICE protest in Portland. Our Julia Ainsley joins us now with the late-breaking details. Julia, what have you learned?
Been hospitalized after a shooting involving federal agents that was this afternoon around 2:18 p.m. Pacific time, and it involved Border Patrol agents. As you know, Morgan, Border Patrol agents have been deployed to different cities as part of President Trump's effort to ramp up deportations. In this case, we're still waiting for more details, but we've already gotten a statement from the mayor of Portland condemning this, saying that Portland is not a training ground for the militarized tactics of DHS, and condemning this shooting. Now, DHS is working on getting more details to us. They are not saying that there was anything wrong with this. Of course, this obviously follows a very recent shooting by an ICE officer in Minneapolis of a woman who was in her vehicle. Questions, of course, of whether or not that ICE officer was shooting in self-defense or whether that woman was just trying to get away from the ICE officer and not actually purposely ramming her car. That's sparking protests as we speak. In Minneapolis, we understand 11 people have been arrested there. But in Portland, you can see this apartment complex where these people were found earlier today when Portland police were called to the scene. And Morgan, I can get you the statement from the mayor just as we're getting this in, saying that just one day after the horrific violence in Minnesota at the hands of federal agents, our community here in Portland is now grappling with a deeply troubling incident. Saying earlier this afternoon, 2 people were shot and injured by federal agents in the Hazelwood neighborhood. He says we cannot sit by while constitutional protections erode and bloodshed mounts. So they are already condemning I have to say, Morgan, a similar situation from what we've seen playing out in Minneapolis with local officials condemning a shooting by federal agents. DHS saying, hold on, we're getting more details. We don't believe anything here was improper or outside of training. Clearly, FBI already at the scene. And again, Morgan, this time involving 2 people who have been shot and hospitalized in Portland. We do not yet know anything about the conditions of those injured.
Julia, this is happening, as you mentioned, in the Hazelwood neighborhood in northwest Portland. To be clear, while the mayor and police are saying that a federal agent was the one who opened fire, wounding this man and this woman who are now hospitalized, we still don't know to what degree that agent was involved in any specific ICE-related activity for now, right?
That's true. What we do know is that this was Border Patrol. There was some confusion initially when a local news organization put out a headline saying ICE, and then it said Border Patrol in the body of the article. I have been told by DHS this involved a Border Patrol agent, not ICE. Of course, both of those agencies fall under the DHS umbrella, but just very clear, what we do know at this time is that this federal agent works for the Border Patrol, not for ICE.
All right, Julia Ainsley with those late-breaking details. Julia, thanks so much. I want to turn now to the significant developments on the ground in Venezuela tonight. The Trump administration ramping up efforts to control the country's oil as members of the president's own party are raising questions over his authority. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez joining us tonight from neighboring Colombia. Gabe, a major announcement from inside Venezuela tonight about political prisoners here. We know some have already been released.
Yeah, that's right, Morgan. It was a surprising announcement today by Jorge Rodriguez, the president of the National Assembly. He said that the Venezuelan government, the remains of the Maduro regime, would begin to release political prisoners. Now, this was significant because we had not heard from the Trump administration about this, or that they had been calling for this. Of course, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has made this a point throughout his political career to call for the release of political prisoners. But as we understand it, we're now hearing from the Spanish government, the government of Spain, it's saying that already 5 of its nationals that were held in Venezuela, including 1 dual citizen, have been released already. Now, the Trump administration, we haven't heard much from them on how involved they were behind the scenes on this, but we did receive a statement from a White House deputy press secretary who said that this was part of the Trump administration and the president using maximum leverage in Venezuela. So again, as far as we know it, at least 5 political prisoners, according to the government of Spain, have already been released, Morgan.
And Gabe, as all of this is playing out, one of the biggest questions here is some sort of timetable. We're hearing a bit more from President Trump tonight about how long U.S. involvement in Venezuela could last.
Yeah, that's right. In a new interview with the New York Times, the president was asked, look, how long would the involvement last? Would it be 3 months, 6 months, a year? And he said much longer. Now, he was also asked about the possibility of U.S. troops on the ground in Venezuela if the government blocked access to the oil. And he said he didn't want to answer that question. But this is all part, Morgan, of the Trump administration ramping up its efforts to control Venezuelan oil. And yes, the president making it very clear that this is not a short-term plan, Morgan.
Not short-term. All right, Gabe Gutierrez, we appreciate your time. We're keeping a very close eye tonight on a severe storm threat that is brewing in the south, where millions of people are at risk for both floods and tornadoes. In Oklahoma, this roof completely torn off after a twister moved through. Preliminary reports are rating this as an EF1 tornado. A semi-truck also seen flipped over not too far away. And these power poles bent from those powerful winds. Some of them completely snapped. I did want to bring in NBC meteorologist Bill Cairns here. But we sometimes forget tornado season kind of comes twice a year. Can you walk us through the threats and the current timing that you're seeing?
I mean, and in the middle of the country, it feels like spring. It hasn't even felt like winter at all. So it's no surprise that we're getting, spring-like storms. 2 tornadoes officially. One of them looks like it was like an EF1 or so, over 100-mile-per-hour winds. We haven't had much severe weather since then, but we could get isolated severe storms tonight. Areas from St. Louis, pretty strong line of storms going through Chicago. It's mostly in Illinois. And then tomorrow, we're going to focus from New Orleans back up through Mississippi into Alabama. In this region, probably in the late afternoon, evening, isolated tornadoes and severe storms are possible. About 6 million people are under that risk.
Bill, curious, up to the north, Alaska dealing with record snow, even for them, and another storm could make things even worse?
Yeah, this is an amazing story. So Juneau, Alaska, it's not Anchorage, it's not Fairbanks. So it's on the water, it's on the coast, it's typically warmer. They just had an incredibly historic December, 82 inches of snow. And we have pictures of boats in the harbor. They had so much water and so much snow on them. They got so heavy, they capsized, they flipped over. So this was, even by their standards, they normally get 17 inches of snow in December. They had 82, 4 times as much. And the big problem coming is they're trying to get rid of all this snow. It's been very cold, and now they have a huge rainstorm coming. They're going to pick up about 3 inches of rain in the next 2 days. A lot of people are concerned with their roofs collapsing. So big concerns for our friends to the north up here on the Alaska coast.
All right, glad you're keeping an eye on it, Bill. Appreciate you. Time now for a check on Top Stories news feed. Federal prosecutors reportedly launching a new investigation into New York Attorney General Letitia James. People with knowledge of the matter telling the New York Times it's all related to financial transactions involving James's longtime hairdresser. In a statement to NBC News, the AG's attorney calling the probe an abuse of justice. We did reach out to the Justice Department for comment, but tonight have yet to hear back. And a Pennsylvania man's accused of stealing more than 100 skeletons from a cemetery. That's right. 34-year-old Jonathan Gerlach is facing charges, including abuse of a corpse and burglary. Officials say they arrested him after he was caught desecrating a monument at the cemetery. And according to the Delaware County District Attorney, some of those stolen skeletons are hundreds of years old. Still unclear if that suspect has a lawyer. And just a beyond bizarre scene on the street in Phoenix. Take a look. Video shows this self-driving car sitting along a commuter train track. You can see it happening just as the train's approaching. Our NBC affiliate reports police say it didn't cause disruptions to the rail service. Waymo tonight telling NBC News it hopes to learn from the incidents and that safety is the company's highest priority. And the Winter Olympics could be in jeopardy for an American snowboarding star. You know the name, Chloe Kim. In a post on social media, she revealed she dislocated her shoulder while training in Switzerland. The 25-year-old says she's trying to stay optimistic with the games less than 1 month away. Kim, of course, has won gold medals at the prior 2 Olympics. Well, tonight we have got a cost of denial piece about one college student's fight to walk at her graduation. When an insurance company initially denied her access to a new prosthetic foot, she stood up to fight for her right to walk. Our own Tom Llamas explains.
I'm 15, 1 week into summer. I hear that I'm losing my entire foot. I was hysterical.
Go to the chair.
For Gabby Guerrero, now 21, that moment changed her life. She had been off-roading with her siblings when the vehicle flipped, her left foot trapped.
I hit the puddle and it hydroplaned, got off balance, flipped. When it flipped, it captured my foot and slid 50 feet. When I looked down, I saw not my foot. I saw a bunch of blood.
Do you remember when the doctors told you you've lost your foot?
The first surgeon said, I pieced it back together, but we're probably going to have to amputate from the ankle.
Gabby was in shock. She would now have to learn how to walk with a prosthesis. This was her new foot, and one that was fully covered by insurance. Prosthetic feet typically last 3 to 5 years. Gabby made hers last even longer.
I made it last 6 years. The back was starting to rip, which affected how it fit.
To be clear, by all accounts, you needed a new prosthetic.
Absolutely, 100%. Did not fit me, and it was literally disintegrating.
But now, just ahead of her graduation from Texas A&M, insurance denied coverage.
I just want to live the life that I've had the pleasure to live the last 6 years. And now that my prosthetic doesn't fit anymore, they want to tell me that that life is not important.
Her insurance said the new prosthesis was not medically necessary.
And you thought that wasn't the case?
Absolutely not. Comfort and convenience are very important in a lifestyle, and for them to say that that's not considered medically necessary, it just makes me angry.
and meets the criteria of
Through her mother's job, Gabby has an insurance plan administered by Aetna. Aetna told us that the silicone-based device requested did not meet the criteria to improve and restore function and mobility, and may slip off the anatomical heel and may cause a trip or fall hazard. Aetna also said the prosthetist who applied for Gabby's new foot didn't provide sufficient information.
Feels like we're playing a game.
Gabby's mother, Lynn Polson, was furious. The out-of-pocket cost for the prosthesis would be $7,500. With 9 kids in total, that's money she didn't have.
That's the whole reason we have insurance. And to judge and to tell me what my daughter needs when they don't really know, it's very frustrating.
Orthopedic experts and advocates tell NBC News that denials for coverage of prostheses are extremely common, and that while half of states have some sort of law governing coverage, laws across the country vary widely. Gabby appealed her denial, but 1 week before her graduation, coverage was denied again.
Does it hurt that they're telling you no for $7,500?
Absolutely. $7,500 to them is probably nothing. $7,500 on a credit card for my mom, it's a lot more. It means a lot more to us. And so my mom never questioned it. She pulled out her credit card and said, put it on this. And it's just, I don't know. It breaks my heart that my mom had to cough up $7,500 when that means a lot more to her than the insurance company.
But her mother insisted and put it on the credit card. Gabby got her prosthesis and donned open-toe heels, just like her friends at graduation. Picking up her degree in public health. But her story doesn't end here.
Since we last spoke, I have had about 4 phone calls with the insurance.
5 days after our interview, Aetna told NBC News it had more critical information about Gabby's needs and that her plan sponsor agreed to grant coverage of the prosthetic.
The insurance finally got the override to reverse the claim and reimburse my mom for the full amount.
Go get him, Gabby, and special thanks to our own Tom Llamas. Coming up tonight, the death of an American daredevil, a famed wingsuit diver killed during a high-flying stunt. We'll explain what went wrong. Plus, the scary scene as flames erupt from a man's pocket after a portable charger apparently catches fire. We'll show you that dramatic video next. And we're back now with Top Stories Global Watch. We want to start in Syria, where tens of thousands of people are fleeing as fighting is breaking out between the country's government and Kurdish forces. You can see crowds evacuating recently. This is in a northern city there of Aleppo, in a contested area. AP reporting tonight that more than 20 people were killed over the past few days. Both sides are accusing each other of targeting civilian neighborhoods. And we do have some alarming video tonight out of China. A phone charging brick exploding in a man's pocket while he entered a subway, flames taking off. This is all according to Chinese media. You can see the man rushing down an escalator on fire as commuters try to get out of the way there. Fortunately, they were eventually able to get that fire out. And a national park in eastern Congo welcoming the rare birth of mountain gorilla twins. That's right. Here's the mother holding her 2 beloved babies. We're told they appeared to be healthy. National park officials described the birth as a major event, of course, especially since mountain gorillas are endangered and they're only believed to be around 1,000 left living in the wild. Well, in South Africa, a prominent American wingsuit pilot and base jump advocate fell to his death after a jump gone wrong. His wife speaking to our team, saying that she lost him far too soon. George Solis with that story tonight.
In the adrenaline-pumping world of base jumping, wingsuit pilot Brendan Weinstein made daring jumps like this look easy, leaping from peaks and summits in a specialized jumpsuit called a wingsuit, allowing him to glide in a free fall. Videos like this earning him reverence and scores of followers. But around 9 a.m. local time on Monday, Weinstein's latest leap took a deadly turn. His wife, Kavia Martins, confirming to NBC News that he died during a jump from Table Mountain in South Africa. Multiple rescue groups responding. The country's National Parks Organization confirming the tragic loss of life involving a base jumper, but did not release the name of the victim. The group also reiterating that base jumping from the park is prohibited. The South African Hand Gliding and Paragliding Association not commenting on this specific incident, but noting that the mountain presents significant objective hazards, on top of a sport that's already incredibly risky.
The margin for error is basically non-existent. You're talking about a human who is flying at a speed in excess of 100 miles an hour within 6 feet of the ground, right? If something happens and goes wrong, it goes wrong almost before you can react.
Tom Llamas jumped with Weinstein in the past.
Most of the energy that I saw him putting forth recently was towards things like access issues for the base community, trying to get people better legal access to jump more sites.
Tonight, it remains unclear how the experienced jumper may have missed his mark. Weinstein's wife posting pictures with their son, writing, "He was deeply loved, and he left a powerful mark on so many people, a family and community now left in mourning."
And George Solis joins us now from Miami. George, you did mention base jumping is prohibited. Where this incident happened, is it legal anywhere?
Yeah, Morgan. So in South Africa's national parks, it is illegal. It's prohibited. Now, it's not illegal everywhere, but it is highly restricted. Here in the U.S., for instance, at national parks, you do need a permit. Now, Weinstein's was trying his best to basically get these laws changed. He was an advocate for change, but as we mentioned, obviously the community tonight in mourning over the loss of someone they revered quite much. Morgan?
No doubt. All right, George, thank you so much. When we come back, instead of putting a ring on it, he let it slip right through his fingers. How this proposal fail turned into one happy ending. Coming up. And we are back now with the record-breaking attempt at the bottom of the earth. Explorer Colin O'Brady spending months cut off from the world in freezing temps, becoming the very first person to cross Antarctica's Ross Ice Shelf unsupported and under his very own power. Now back on land, one of the first people he called, our very own Chloe Malas, who has that exclusive.
Yeah! Tonight, a milestone at the end of the world.
It's official!
American explorer Colin O'Brady making history as he officially completed his crossing of Antarctica's Ross Ice Shelf.
Yes! First person in history to ever cross the Ross Ice Shelf solo and unsupported. It was so hard.
Moments later, the emotion of that months-long journey sinking in.
So hard and so beautiful.
We spoke to O'Brady exclusively after his crossing.
Hi.
What's up?
How are you feeling right now in this moment?
I feel incredible. For 56 days, I was walking on a piece of ice that's floating in the ocean that's the size of larger than California, the Ross Ice Shelf. Yesterday, I stepped onto land.
Others have crossed the Ross Ice Shelf, but in groups or with the help of tools like kites. O'Brady's doing this alone and completely human-powered.
Catching me on a beautiful day for an interview, but it's not been like this. You know, most of the time, it's actually been pure whiteout.
Those tough conditions meant O'Brady had to lighten his load for the first 150 miles of his journey, carrying half of his supplies at a time before doubling back to pick up the rest.
Which means I was having to cover 3 miles for every mile of distance that I actually covered on the route. You can imagine emotionally when you're trying to move in a straight line how frustrating that is.
O'Brady began his journey 7 weeks ago. That 500-pound sled packed with food, fuel, and no change of clothes.
There's no showers out here. Yeah, I only brought 1 pair of underwear, 1 pair of clothes. Still wearing it, so good thing you can't smell me through the phone.
What are you eating every day?
Yeah, so I eat the same exact thing every single day. Literally the exact same thing 100 days in a row. Wasn't any different on Thanksgiving, wasn't any different on Christmas.
It's not just hearty meals he's missing. Waiting at home is his 2-year-old son, Banks, who he communicates with in brief weekly calls with a portable satellite device.
As excited as I am to do these big projects as an explorer myself, in the future, I'm more excited about taking my son on adventures.
But until they reunite, O'Brady spends his days with a strict routine, pulling his sled for 12 hours and sleeping just 6.
It's actually technically like 2 a.m. right now where I'm standing, and this is what it looks like. It's the middle of the night. And so the only way I sleep is I put my hat down over my eyes like this, I close my eyes and I fall asleep. But I tell you what, when you're pulling this much weight and dragging this sled around and all this, sleep comes easy.
This is the 40-year-old's sixth time in Antarctica. In 2018, O'Brady celebrated becoming the first person to cross the continent solo and unsupported on a 715-mile journey.
This is harder than I ever dreamed possible.
This time around, O'Brady's upped his total planned route to 1,780 miles. That's about the distance from New York City to Boulder, Colorado. So far, he's about 500 miles in, or just past Akron, Ohio.
Goodbye, Ross Ice Shelf. I'm going to keep going as far as I possibly can with the supplies I have, and at some point there's a limitation to that. Hopefully by that point I'm standing on the other ice shelf and in celebration of crossing the entire continent again. But, you know, one day, one step at a time. Yes!
Chloe Malas, NBC News.
All right, Chloe, thanks. And finally tonight, a proposal gone wrong. A Michigan man dropping down on one knee, ready to ask his girlfriend one of life's biggest questions, but he dropped something else too. Here's Tom.
Trevor Van Camp had the ring ready for a picture-perfect proposal to his girlfriend, Danielle Jenkins, high atop a suspension bridge in Michigan. But seconds later, the ring slipping away, falling 118 feet into the snow below.
I looked through the grates and saw how high I was. Then immediate panic and nerves went completely through my body.
They went down into the snow searching for hours, but they couldn't find it in the dark.
I reassured Trevor up and down that no matter what, I loved him. I was always going to say yes, and we would figure it out when we got home.
That's when the mountain's snowmaking supervisor stepped in, determined to find that ring.
I searched a really good area for it. I dug the snow down, and then the edge of the ring stuck out. And I kind of sat there for a minute, and I was like, there's no way you just found that.
Our hero. Absolutely.
Finally, Trevor was able to put the ring on Danielle's finger.
He looked at me and I said, you don't have to do it all over again, but put it on my hand this time.
And Trevor has some advice for those looking to pop the question.
Just do it on flat ground. It's the smartest place.
A happy ending, giving a whole new meaning to falling in love.
Love always finds a way, doesn't it? And that couple going to be heading right back to that very spot next year for the big wedding. We wish them well. Well, thanks so much for watching Top Story tonight. I'm Morgan Chesky in for Tom. Stay right here. More news is on the way.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.